Hey everyone, I'm Stefan. This is Graham.
Hey.
This is Travis.
Serge. Hello. My dog answered for
he
Graham.
did.
He answers for Tram as well.
This is a special episode, though. If this is your first time with us, we've got a massive list of albums we like, or at least think are interesting, and talk about them for your enjoyment. But not today. This is the 50th episode. Today we are not reviewing an album, but instead a movie. Woodstock 99, Peace, Love, and Rage, the first episode in the HBO docuseries Music Box. This came out about 2 weeks ago now. And there's a lot to unpack with this movie. Some of the filmmakers' decisions, comments made by the artists who were there. But we're going to get into that in a second. Just as a launch point, y'all, the fact that they do these, the guy who put on the original show, Michael Lang, is still doing these anniversary shows. That's still, like, I didn't know he was doing that until 2 years ago, during all of the chaos and ultimate implosion of what would have been the 50-year anniversary of Woodstock. So the fact that they did this same thing, albeit they actually had the shows back in the 90s, that's still kind of shocking to me. I've got kind of a interesting history with Woodstock. I am kind of ashamed to admit that I first heard about Woodstock in Wayne's World 2, and later, I think it was my uncle who encouraged me to watch the documentary about the original show, or just the concert video, or what you want to call it. And I've since done that, and I was kind of captivated by the insanity around the original show in '69, and read some about it. And I saw that they were I saw that they had done these tribute shows in '94 and '99, which is the subject of the documentary we're going to talk about. But yeah, I knew very little about all the hoopla around the Woodstock brand. So just as a starting point, what are y'all's? How did y'all first hear about Woodstock? Graham, what about you?
So, and you mean just Woodstock in general, not the specific year?
Yeah.
Okay. It's hard to say for me. Like, I feel like I've just always kind of heard it thrown around, like, since I've been aware of, classic rock and watching documentaries. Like, I used to watch a lot of VH1 Classic, but I feel like I'd probably heard Woodstock referenced, maybe by like one of my parents, or I think I remember in School of Rock they mention it by name. I don't think they really elaborate on what it is, but of course I've been seeing the clips of Hendrix or Santana and the Who,
Shanana. Shanana.
Oh yeah. Richie Havens. So yeah, and I was, aware that they did like a Woodstock 99, or they did a 96 and a 99.
94.
Oh, that's right. And I was looking, and it looks like there are even more than I realized. Like, there's a Woodstock 79, 89. There's some Woodstock that looks like it happened in Poland.
What the heck?
Poland Rock Festival.
Wow.
Woodstock Festival, Poland. But anyway.
Polfest.
Yeah, man.
Woodstock.
It's just always been this kind of cultural event. I'm not like a huge fan of the movie or the performances, really, even though I, am into some of that music. But yeah. Travis?
You talking about Woodstock 99?
No, just Woodstock.
Oh, gotcha. kind of the same thing as you in terms of my introduction to Woodstock. I can't really pinpoint a specific moment, but I feel like probably my parents, or I would imagine sometime preteen, maybe early teenage years. Just kind of starting to get into music for myself.
Yeah.
Hendrix, like you said, a lot of those guys, and in the morning before school, I would watch VH1 Classic like religiously.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of exposure to it. And then, of course, School of Rock. I mean, that was like the gateway movie.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what got the ball rolling for me, really. But that's kind of my experience, I guess, with 69 at least. 94 and 99 I kind of came to on my own just through countless hours of watching stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
Did you know about all the craziness and like the behind the scenes stuff that was going on at the 99 show?
Yes. Yeah, I'm very familiar with 99. 94, I haven't seen all the performances, but I've watched a pretty good chunk of them. But I'd never really heard of anything bad with that, rather than just all the mud and rain. I feel like that's kind of what's synonymous with 94. But yeah, no, 99, I feel like I know like the back of my hand.
No. That's... What did any initial thoughts after watching the documentary? Graham, I know you like just finished watching it. What did you think?
Yeah, I finished it a couple hours ago, and man, I was I think I'd heard that there were some issues at this thing, but I knew very little about it. I was kind of expecting more of like a just a lot of the artists being interviewed and talking about what it was like, and I don't know, talking about the performances. But this thing is pretty much all about just what a disaster this thing was.
Off the rails from the start.
Yeah. I mean, there's some, definitely some disturbing stuff. This was not a super, fun watch. And there's not a ton of clips of, performances. I was kind of expecting that going in, but yeah, this is a way different kind of thing than I expected.
Yeah.
What'd you think, Stefan?
I first watching it, I was pretty horrified by the how out of control it was. The brazenness with which I think he was like the media liaison, John Scher, the way he just, both in the interviews they conducted present day, where he is continually passing the buck on every disaster that happened. And more shocking was the footage of those press conferences during the show, where he is like so actively antagonizing and is like so hostile to everybody who's just asking, like, they're saying they don't have clean water. Like, do we have a truck of that? I mean, and it's like, he shits on the MTV people so much at a time when MTV really mattered. Like, I don't know what their standing is now. It can't be more powerful than it was in the 90s, can it? Like,
no.
that was like TRL was still a massive show. I mean, that was like the people who worked there, like the broadcasters who launched their careers through that network. I mean, that was an important place to work. It's seriously, like, culturally significant. And this guy is just like completely wiping his ass with all of them, and it was very, very surprising to see. And
yeah, well, I mean, there's the part where what's the guy who was there from MTV who was like trying
yeah.
to do live footage and like people are throwing stuff at him like the entire time.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like
I know you're
I feel
talking
like
about.
The guy who does the talk show.
Yeah.
He's the guy who's like, I'm glad I wasn't Carson Daly because I didn't want to be the most famous person from MTV.
For some reason I thought it was Carson Daly.
Yeah, Carson Daly. I'm sorry, that's who I was thinking.
Okay.
Oh, it was Carson Daly.
He's like, I'm almost scared to be here, basically.
You see footage of him in the doc. I don't think he agreed to be interviewed for this.
Yeah. There weren't a ton of people that wanted to be involved with this. It seemed like.
Yeah, I think Dave Holmes is the main guy who like speaks for MTV and their take on the show.
Yeah.
It is kind of interesting though, because it's like, what's the guy's name in the press conferences?
John Scher.
Yeah, so he's like, you can tell that he's got some serious beef with MTV, but it kind of seems like that was the general sentiment of the crowd goers too.
Yes.
You know,
and
go ahead.
I was just gonna. They go into that and how their role in anointing like the Britney Spears type of artist to popularity. Right. That's why the crowd was so hostile towards them, and we can talk about that more. Sorry, Graham, I cut you off. What were you gonna say?
No, you're good. I was gonna say, so MTV like filmed this and did like a pay-per-view type thing. Is that how this worked?
Yes,
that's what I was reading. And yeah, the like you were saying, Stefan, that promoter, what's his last name? Scheer?
Yeah, Scher. So I think it's Cher.
Yeah, I got a weird vibe from him, and honestly, like the like founder of Woodstock, the guy with the curly hair.
Lane.
Yeah.
Like there was kind of it was subtle, but there was kind of this weird vibe I got from both of them. Like they were definitely, not going to admit any, shortcomings and bad planning. Just because this thing was like, it was like, what were they thinking? Like,
yes,
just the, the number one strange part is the fact that like this is a Woodstock, or this has the name Woodstock on it, but it's like it's basically like a metal festival.
The thing is though, is that it's not quite that.
Right.
They spend so much time on the new metal bands in particular. And I know obviously Metallica and Megadeth were there too, but there were twice as many jam bands at Woodstock '99 as new metal ones. I mean, like Jewel and Alanis Morissette were there. Moby had that rave tent set up. Roots were there.
Yeah.
Like, there were bands that weren't. The documentary certainly presents the show as this like thrash metal, like edgelord fest. But I think that's one of the failures of this movie, that they focus so much on that it kind of distorts your perception of what the show really was.
I've got to say there was a lot of bias in this movie that kind of turned me off.
Yeah. And Stefan, I agree with you. Like I do. They did mention like, hey, the Counting Crows played and like Live played and Creed. So yeah, it was diverse, but I guess I was just saying it's strange that there were these headliners that just, I don't know. I just don't know why they called it Woodstock,
Because Michael Lang put on the show. That's the only reason why.
Because he makes the point. He was like, those were the popular artists at the time. Like, what did you want me to do?
Right. And I just feel like he could have done a little more. I mean, I don't know.
About money, man.
Yeah, totally. And that's really all I had. Was just kind of a strange. And they talk about it in the documentary, like, how nobody really knew any of these old like Woodstock references or cared.
Right. Dude, the part with Scott Stapp, they're like, nobody gave a shit about anything that happened 30 years ago. Half these kids don't even know what he's talking about.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he had a
Robbie Krieger.
Yeah, yes. There you go. They're like, none of these kids know who this guy is.
I'm curious about that performance. What did Robbie Krieger do during a Creed song?
Shredded.
Just a little. Yeah,
dude. Yeah,
I'm gonna have to check this out because I don't really know if I've seen Creed like do a jam.
Dude, Shred City, man.
You know what? I gotta say, Scott Stapp might have been one of my favorite parts about this doc, and the moment when they talk about Robbie Krieger in particular, because like everybody's saying like nobody cared. Dave Holmes is like nobody gave a shit, and then Scott Stapp, he has had 22 years to think of some stupid like, oh god, it was a dumb idea, or like, he came up and approached me. He doesn't, though. He totally owns, like, I love the Doors. I love the original show. Like, I wanted to do this. Like, I was like, good for Scott Stapp. Good for him. He didn't pass the buck. He said, this is something that mattered to me. The guys in Creed were okay with it. Robbie was okay with it. We did it. And I say, more power to you. Yeah. Good for you.
I agree, man. I respect Scott Stapp, man. That he's had a hell of a time.
Yeah, he has.
Some substance problems, right?
Say what?
He's had some like substance issues, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's gone off the rails a couple of times.
Yeah.
I think my favorite story is him trying to fight 311 at a hotel.
Yeah.
How many people are in 311?
I think like in this altercation, I want to say there are at least 3 or 4 of them there.
That's awesome.
I think they're at like the bar in the hotel. And Scott Stapp was like, "Yastia."
God,
that's some outfit he's got on during Woodstock too.
I know.
That belt buckle.
Graham, haven't you been blessed with Scott Stapp's presence?
I almost forgot, but yes. I saw Creed at a halftime show at a Cowboy game when I was like a little kid.
Dude, you're so lucky.
I barely remember it. I just remember being really hot because of that big hole in the ceiling, and it was like, just some hot Texas day, probably in like November.
It was a hot Thanksgiving that year when they played that show.
Did you know at that time that was the greatest live performance you were ever going to see in your lifetime?
Yeah, I was really.
You got to see Scott Stapp fly. You got to see the man fly.
See, I don't even remember that.
He transcended reality, man, right before your eyes.
I'd have to go on YouTube. Did he like parachute down?
His arms went wide open and he just took off.
Oh my.
But I won't dwell on Scott Stapp. But I'm glad he went way out of his way to talk about how significant that was to him and make everybody aware.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool.
Yeah. I did too. I like that. I mean, it was nobody really had good things to say in this, and that is totally understandable. But Scott Stapp is I don't think he has anything to apologize for in this show, and frankly, I don't think any of these artists do.
No.
And that's something that we really need to talk about.
Yeah.
Because I really think the movie has kind of a coverted effort to point the finger at the artists.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a little back and forth on that, but there is a lot of you know, like you were saying, Travis. I mean, there's a slant here where it's like, okay, they're definitely kind of lumping several artists together that I'm sure have a diverse fan base, and I don't know much of the music of Korn or Limp Bizkit, but it's an over. I mean, there were definitely terrible things that happened at this concert. I mean, nobody's going to disagree with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I feel like people can kind of watch this movie and come away kind of having that simplified view that, like, fans of this band are just like, shitty, wild ass people that, like, I mean, and they're kind of talking about how that's been a debate.
Right.
So there's a little back and forth, but yeah, like the promoter is like, Fred Durst, I told him to, like, calm things down, and, like, dude, that is not going to go over.
Yeah. Honestly, it's like, think about what you just said. Fred Durst trying to calm his fans down, like, that would probably have had a poorer effect than just rolling with his normal stage show. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah.
I mean, it's probably, the artists, I'm sure, didn't know the nature of, like, quite how bad things were. Like, when you're up there, you might see people fighting, but you don't know why, or like,
yeah. The bit about, like, towards the end of the show where they're talking about, like, like all the sexual assault and all that, and like how a lot of those guys that were up on stage, like, saw it all happening and didn't do anything about it. And it's like, maybe they did. I just feel like at a show like that, you'd be so in the moment. Like, I mean, you could see if a huge pit erupted, and there's, like, somebody down in the center of it, but it's like, I don't know.
It would be hard to tell what was going on. Like, and exactly. There were some artists that, I don't know, maybe they had been tipped off before. Is that the guy in The Offspring?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. He's a
cool dude.
Yeah. Him and the Korn guy,
Jonathan Davis.
Yeah, I enjoyed hearing from them. But, like, a lot of these big artists, they didn't really get, like, you didn't hear anything from Dave Matthews or like who's the biggest star that was in this movie? Dave Mustaine,
or biggest star in 1999?
Oh, I mean, like, that they actually got for an interview.
Moby's pretty big.
Yeah.
Glad you brought him up.
Yes, we'll have lots to talk about with Moby.
Graham, I want to go back to something you said a second ago about how, like, there's no way the artists could have known, like, the situation in the crowd. And for those of you that haven't seen it, this concert, like, there was poorly supplied, they were overcharging for water, bathroom issues.
It was destined to fail from the get-go.
Yes, it was all of the kinds of normal problems that you usually get at these big festivals.
Right.
And I think Graham's right that none of the artists could be expected to know the nitty-gritty insanity of what was going on in the crowd. The funny thing is, though, I think the movie kind of wants us to think that the artists should have known. And it's because of one of Moby's comments early in the movie when he's talking about how, like, I got off the bus and within 5 minutes,
I felt the vibe of the venue. I just knew.
He's like, I knew. I have played in so many shows. It is a sixth sense you get. I knew this was not going to be well. And and it's like, and then listen, I think that there is probably something to that if you play at gigs for a living and you go to them all the time and you're playing them all the time, you find out the tone, the mood of an audience real quick. But I feel like Moby is kind of used as like a smoke screen for how these filmmakers do. And that is why you've got Moby going on a goddamn rant about how the new metal guys like perverted the message of hip hop and grunge.
Yes.
I mean, listen, that to me, I heard that, and listen, Graham, the first time I saw this movie, I was so disgusted and horrified. I didn't pick up on this. I've had a week to salivate on all this. And like watching that now, watching that comment from Moby now, where he's just pecking at these guys, it's just a pompous way of saying he doesn't like that music. Like, that's all that is. That's just him saying, I don't like this music, and here's an overly articulate reason why. Moby's got a history of criticizing other artists' music, but really, I really do think that he was kind of used as like a mouth for how the filmmakers really feel and how they kind of, by extension, want us to feel about this show.
Right.
I think you're kind of onto something there. I mean, I was like, this is going to piss a lot of people off because I feel like he's just kind of broad brushing. Like, I'm not a nu metal fan at all, but you know, I feel like it's dangerous to kind of paint something as, you know, I'm sure it's a diverse genre. Sure, they've got, you know, thousands of fans, or millions. It's always kind of dangerous to broad brush, and it just kind of seemed unnecessary. Like,
right?
I don't. Yeah, that pointing fingers at the artists. I feel like that's an old trope, I guess, and they touch on that in the documentary. I mean, about, you know, people blaming school shootings or blaming that on Marilyn Manson and all that stuff.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I don't know, just Moby's whole thing in this just felt very pretentious to me, and it just, whether, you know, I'm all for expressing.
You cut out a little bit.
Yeah, you cut off, man. Are you there?
Well,
we're having some technical difficulties. But
Can you hear me?
Now
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There he is. Okay, and we're back.
Sorry.
All good. All good.
No, I was saying the thing that bothered me with Moby is, I mean, it felt pretentious, and I got that holier than thou vibe that just really irritated me. You know, like, I was above all that the whole time, and like, you know,
right.
It's like, dude, come on now. Like, you were a drop in the bucket compared to a lot of those acts at that time. Like, you know, I don't know.
And that whole, I would like to know more about that whole rave scene.
Here's the thing, that this is why this whole thing bothered me. So when I went to Grass Pop in 2018, they do the same thing. As soon as all the acts end at like 2, 3 in the morning, there's a massive tent that plays rave music till like 9 a.m.
Yeah.
Every night. And if you want to go hang out there, you can. You don't have to. Like, and it's a very similar demographic. It's a lot of rock and metal bands, and it's like, well, maybe some of those people don't really listen to that. You know what I mean? I don't know. Go ahead.
That comment where somebody's like, there was just no way that, you know, a fan of this was going to go see Moby in the rave. Like, it's just not going to happen. Like, do you remember that?
Yeah. And I'm like, dude, it happens all the time.
Like, not everybody there, I'm sure, was just like a total.
Right.
I don't know. Like,
and if anything, sorry, not to cut you off, but it's like, you know, the girl making can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
The girl making the point about how this entire thing was set up to cater to 24-year-old white male fraternity guys who had everything in their lives handed to them. I'm like, dude, really? And you know, it's like, okay, well, I would imagine that they probably like a bunch of different genres of music. They probably did like the rave thing. If you really feel that way about that being the demographic, you know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know. It was just, there was one girl specifically. I can't remember what magazine or what news source she worked for.
Girl.
Yes, dude. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Trigger me timbers, man.
It was
smug.
Golly.
It's like it just had to. I don't know. Like so many, stories written today are like, here's why this was like toxic, or like, I just feel like a lot of times it is like an oversimplification and just kind of a way to draw attention to it, or
right.
Yeah.
And sure, I mean, there's truth to that. I mean, most of the people there were these 20-something white dudes.
Right.
I don't know how many of them, participated in, the violence or sexual violence or destruction.
Probably need to talk about that now. Get into the darker elements that amp up near the end of the movie.
Right.
Sure.
So during the what I think it sounds like the Limp Bizkit show was sort of like the de facto headline event for Woodstock '99, because they were pretty much at their peak popularity when this happened.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And during the song Break Stuff, I think it was like that you had people like, standing on wood panels, like kind of crowd surfing, and you saw like people just getting completely consumed by the crowd, and they started like scaling the like some of the equipment that was sort of scattered around, like all the sound stuff and some lights, and that kind of devolved into a full-scale riot where these big bonfires kicked up, and they raided a bunch of food trucks and busted out a bunch of water tanks, and just the whole thing for the final 6 hours of this concert was just absolute insanity. And yeah, this was during all this craziness, there were a lot of incidents of, I mean, they get into one guy who I think he died of like pneumonia, was it?
Hyperthermia.
Hypothermia, that's right. And people were passing out from dehydration.
It was hot as hell there.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And they were having the concert at basically outside an aircraft hangar, like all on concrete and all those metal panel buildings reflecting all the light. I mean, it looked miserable out there.
I can't imagine, honestly.
Me neither.
I've, when I was at Grass Pop, like, there's 180 to 220,000 people there. And it's like, you want to get a good spot for the big headliner, so it's like you basically just park yourself in a spot for like 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I really don't want to walk away and get water or go to the bathroom, because then I'm never going to get my spot back. And it's like,
yeah,
dude, pair that with 110 degree heat.
Oh God.
And, I mean, you're packed in there like sardines. Like, they make a comment about how it's just one like giant organism, like you're moving, your body's getting moved with everybody swaying. It's like, I mean, it's a spot on reference. And it's like, dude, it gets so hot.
Yeah.
That stuff happens.
Oh yeah.
It happens quite a bit, actually.
Yes. At these big events, festivals,
anything, man.
There are all kinds of problems.
Right. Anywhere it's tight.
What?
I said anywhere it's tight quarters like that, it's tough. Yes.
And this one in particular was just really poorly planned out. Like, I thought that, when they talked about the security guards and the hiring process, they're like, it was like a 3-hour class, and the guy spent like the last hour like telling us all the answers to the test.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's like, okay.
That, and the part about he's like, yeah, we'd check people in and then we just like take our name badge off and just dissolve into the crowd. Like,
yeah, take the shirt off, lose the uniform, and go to the show.
I'm on the clock, but I'm
kind
not.
of genius. But you know,
real.
They had that one guy who was like, I could have literally worked like 24 hours a day for all 3 days because so many people just bailed, just didn't go to their shift. Like they took the security guard class to go to the concert. They didn't give a shit about the money.
I've been wondering, just like with kind of the half-assed and crazy nature of like how they plan this, like I feel like they probably tried to get some like really big bands like, you know, Pearl Jam, or like I feel like there must have been something about these promoters and these guys, like why weren't they able to get, you know, like Eddie Vedder or like Neil Young or more like guys from the Woodstock era? Like it seems like people kind of knew like these guys are kind of shady or they don't know what they're doing. I had that thought.
Did any of those people really play at 94?
That's a good question.
Because I mean, when I think of 94, I think of like 9 Inch Nails, Primus, Green Day. You know, not a whole lot of 99 grunge had basically all but died. You know?
Yeah, that's true. Maybe I'm just maybe I'm just trying to, you know, come up with some
right.
I have some animosity towards him, maybe from the artists even, like, you know, and he talks about going to tell Fred Durst to like calm the crowd down and like telling the Chili Peppers. What did y'all think of that? The Chili Peppers playing Fire during the bonfires.
That was another instance of they get the former mayor of Rome, New York, which is where Woodstock 99 happened. They get him. He's not in this a lot. There's some archival footage of him, but in terms of like actual interviews, you don't see him much. At the very end, this is right when like the bonfires kick up and it goes completely bananas. He tells that story that Graham just mentioned about how like he was like, I asked Anthony Kiedis, you know, if you could go out there and calm everybody down, and he starts singing Fire by Jimi Hendrix. I mean, like that's another instance where it seems like they're trying to pass the buck on this one. I mean, like I don't know anything about that guy, the former mayor of Rome, New York, but like surely he couldn't have thought that was actually going to work, did he?
Right.
Like that was total political skate. Like he asked them to do that. So when he was going in front of reporters on TV and talking about how everything went totally tits up at this show that he okayed, he could say, I mean, I asked the bands to, you know, tell everybody to calm down. I mean, it's just that I don't know what I could do. I mean, that's what that
I did my part.
Yeah. And that's
it's not my fault.
Yeah. And they just let that they let his comment hang, and they show the footage of, you know, the Peppers just going crazy, and I think Flea's naked, and it's like they were totally egging this on, and that's just on the rewatch. I was like, yeah, they want us to blame the band,
right?
They want us to feel like it was kind of their fault, and it's not. And disclaimer: I'm no simp or fanboy for any of these artists, okay? Frankly, as long as we're on this topic, I think Anthony Kiedis is kind of gross. Like a pretty gross, disgusting human being. But you know what? What happened at Woodstock 99, that's not on him. It's not on Fred Durst. It's not on Jonathan Davis or Metallica or Megadeth, DMX, Roots, Moby, Jewel, Alanis Morissette, or any of the artists. It's not. It's not.
So,
yeah.
I'm gonna take the opposing side here. I feel like Chili Peppers was the only one that was pretty direct, in my opinion.
Yeah,
it was like, okay, we see exactly what's going on here. Hell yeah, let's do it. Like that. Yeah. That was a poor judgment call, in my opinion. Like that's not like, okay, everybody calm down. They could have played. I mean, they have how many Hendrix covers? They've got, Castles Made of Sand. There's so many, and it's like, oh shit, there's a fire. Let's play Fire. Boom.
Yeah, they chose to kind of make light of it.
They stoked it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, probably not the best decision.
Right. But I mean, it was already up
the highest order.
You know what I mean? The fires were already burning.
Who knows what they could have done?
Exactly.
They could have played Slow Cheetah. That motherfucker was burning down. I mean, the dominoes had fallen.
That's fair.
I mean, the die had been cast. I'm with you. Total dick move on their part. But still, I mean, I think that all those bonfires, that all happens, no matter what they do.
Right.
Yeah, those people were they were set on doing that. And who knows, they probably weren't even Chili Peppers fans, They're probably just like, we're not going to listen to anybody.
They talk about how so many of those people, like, they just gave up trying to get food. Like, a lot of those people had done nothing but drink beer for 3 days. I mean, they were sick and filthy. I mean, we haven't even talked about the goddamn porta potties. But, like, I mean, they were, oh, God.
I am glad that, that Graham, you mentioned this earlier, they kind of fan back and forth between, like, pointing the finger at the artist, but then not pointing the finger at the artist, because it's like, the whole Limp Bizkit thing. I'm like, oh gosh, here we go. Here's the inevitable point the finger. And then they're like, no, it wasn't Limp Bizkit. Like, they're price gouging everybody. Like, they start taking that angle, and it's like, look at America, blah, blah, blah. Like,
there's
more going on here.
The good thing about this movie was, it did kind of present, it was not just totally one-sided.
Right.
Even though they may have leaned, pretty hard on.
They leaned, right. But they gave a little bit of the other side, definitely.
And I think they made the concert promoter look bad.
He made himself look bad.
Yeah. Yes.
All the best spin doctor in the world would quit being that guy's publicist in 2 seconds. If he heard any of those.
Well, I felt like he was heavily sensationalized, and then MTV was heavily sensationalized too. Like both, I'm sure he was trying to spin it off one way, and they were trying to spin it off another way. And I'm sure it was somewhere between those two.
Wasn't MTV kind of involved in maybe the plan? I mean, were they like kind of co-hosts of this thing?
I don't know.
Because I was wondering, did they just immediately realize, like, we're screwed, we better,
take our name off this thing?
Yeah, or just immediately start saying, hey, it's these people's faults. And maybe it was, like...
MTV's been at a lot of venues, man, and they tell within 5 minutes what the vibe's going to be.
Oh, yeah. They read the energy.
They read the energy. The hurling bottles of water.
Oh man,
that's another one too, though. When they show Wyclef Jean doing the Star Spangled Banner on the guitar, and they show the people like throwing stuff at him. Like, you can go find the clip. It's on YouTube. Like, told them to do that.
Oh really?
Right.
Yes.
Wow.
That was the doc spins it like, oh my God, the crowd's out of control, and they're saying the N-word in the DMX song, and oh my gosh, the humanity. And it's like, you can't use the Wyclef clip to back that up, because he was like, he totally, like he said, like, no, do it. Yeah, come on.
Yeah.
Stuff up here.
Yeah. That's good to know. I didn't know that. And
there's a lot of clipped and trimmed performances in this stock. A lot is left out.
Yeah, and they're kind of trying to make it fit a narrative like most docs do. I guess the best ones somehow avoid just, coming off as a total like puff piece.
No, yeah, this is problematic for different reasons.
That narrative is go to Coachella.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, yeah, freaking Coachella,
dude.
Oh my god!
And what Coachella got right was free parking and free water.
Yeah, I did not buy that at all.
The fact that they plugged that festival after going in through all of the horror stories of those poor women that were assaulted and groped and raped at that show, for them to say like Coachella is this like Edenic paradise,
safe haven,
full of chocolate fountains and bubblegum smiles, was an absolute crock of shit. I mean, Coachella had a very well documented history of, you know, struggling to contain like sexual assault in its crowds.
Yeah,
like that specific issue is a huge problem at Coachella.
Yeah.
I would imagine that there is a strong correlation between amount of clothing worn and those issues.
Yeah.
You know, like there's the whole bit of the whole Girls Gone Wild spin on this thing was kind of interesting. You know, like, oh, you know, it's sensationalized and they're expected to be this way. I'm like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
I don't, maybe I don't know, you know, how mainstream Girls Gone Wild was, but I always thought that was just like an infomercial.
Right?
No, it was a real thing. It was a very popular show. It's time.
I only ever saw it as the infomercials myself.
It looked like that.
But the you know, claim that, you know, this is what women would see and be like, well, I guess this is what I have to do. And like,
right.
This is such a simplification. The whole. Go ahead.
I know. I mean, it's just like why they weren't wearing clothes. Like, it's fucking concrete and sheet metal everywhere in the summer. It's 120 degrees. Like, before you even get in the crowd. Like, what? No one was wearing clothes.
Right.
Like, I saw very few shirts in that crowd.
Yeah.
Like, it's hot, and they've been drinking, and they can't afford water, and they're filthy. Like, oh god, it goes back to the planning of it. I'm sorry, Graham. What cut you off?
No, I mean, I was just gonna say, you know, the promoter, you know, says something about, you know, he's frustrated at the women for, you know, being naked and all that stuff. And like, yeah, it's probably not a great decision to do that. But you know, of course that doesn't mean
it doesn't make the other behavior acceptable either.
Right.
Not at all.
But it certain, like, you know, if you were gonna do that, you know, around all those dudes, like, I mean, you just saw so much of it. And the movie also showed so many breasts.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and they were saying, you know, they just exploited these women and, like, made sure to show as many breast shots as they could. And
it's like you're exploiting them right now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I counted 1 million. And I don't know why I'm saying breasts, but it sounds like
what they are.
It's a professional term, you know.
Yeah, I thought that was an interesting spin on things, though, because I mean that was a good 15-20 minutes of stuff on there.
Oh yeah,
talking about all that,
you know, and people. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah,
it's kind of interesting too. Go ahead.
No, just some really awful stories about what happened to some of the women there.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
I thought it was interesting too, the bit about only 3 female artists.
Oh yeah,
that I didn't realize, honestly, because I've watched pretty much all the footage from Woodstock '99, and I was like, man, now that I think about it, all I really remember is Jewel and Alanis, and I'm like, oh yeah, I guess Sheryl Crow was there too. And it's like, beyond that, I couldn't really think of any other female performances I'd watched, and I guess that makes sense as to why there were only 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really don't want to. I mean, Woodstock '99 was such a disaster. But like, I mean, were there that many women at the original show in '69?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, Joyce was there, and Joan Baez was there, and I think Grace Slick was there.
Yeah,
she was with Jefferson Airplane. But I mean, I went ahead and checked out the highlights from the original show, and there were there were women in the crowd, but I didn't
kind
see
of a
lot
similar
of
deal.
Women performers. Yeah, it was kind of a sausage fest.
Yeah, that's a good point. And they even make mention of that early in the movie. They're like, the original Woodstock was not this idyllic thing.
Right.
But then they kind of like try to act like it was. Like they kind of go back and forth.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good point. And I always kind of have felt like the original Woodstock, like a lot of these cultural events, I'm sure it's kind of overblown and oversimplified, just as people like point to it as this one thing. Where really, I'm sure, there are 100,000 people there that were just kind of like, yeah, I kind of like music and I want to see this thing. Like it was not like this, uniform group of people that like represented like that just doesn't happen in
the pinnacle.
Yeah, I mean it is the kind of the first of its kind, and there were some special things that happened there, but I think it can be a little. People are kind of obsessed with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. The documentary was very popular. That I think helped popularize it.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Contrary to what they say at the start of Woodstock '99, the documentary does not romanticize it at all.
No.
You watch that thing, they show those Army helicopters bringing food in. I mean, they show like patrons literally breaking down emotionally when they're told the highway's backed up for like 30 miles, no one can leave. Like they show the rain and the mud and the fucking in fields adjacent to the show, and like how like naked kids everywhere. There's so many naked children in that documentary. I mean, it does not look. I mean, some of the music is cool. I mean, I guess it'd be kind of cool to say you were there, but I did not watch the original documentary. Man, that looked great.
Yeah, and I don't know if I've ever sat through the whole thing, but I've definitely heard about. It was kind of a hassle. Like it wasn't the most fun event, and the lines of cars, and I don't know, man. I'm not a big festival person in general.
Yes, I am. I am in agreement with you on that. Can I ask you something directly?
Yeah.
We've been talking a little bit about the lean of this movie and just some of the biases therein. What do you think this movie wants us to take away from it? Do you think it had like a firm, like kind of like a thesis statement it wanted us to leave with?
It's kind of hard. Like they're. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of hard to say because this happened a long time ago.
Yeah.
Like festivals are not done like this anymore. I don't know what they're trying to do other than point to this event and say this was kind of a disaster and here are some of the reasons why. I don't know if it's too kind of I don't know, kind of like shame, like new metal and stuff like that. I mean,
yeah.
You know, they had several of those guys in the film that, you know, come off, you know, looking pretty good. I mean, the Korn guy and the Deftones, that's not really new metal, I guess, but like,
it is.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Well, wait, you said Deftones.
Uh-huh.
Deftones is new metal.
Oh, is that the guy with the spiky hair?
I think it is.
Okay.
There were two of them, right?
Chino is in there? That would be the Deftones guy.
I don't know.
Maybe so. Yes, new metal, though.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong band. Who sings like The Neighborhood? Or the kids aren't all right or something like that?
The Offspring, Dexter.
Oh, okay.
No, that's not new metal. That's
okay.
That's like punk.
Okay. Yeah. Were Deftones at this thing, or did I just somehow?
That's why I was like, dang, dude, did I miss that?
No.
But yeah, I don't know. What do y'all think? Was there a message?
What's the takeaway?
Yeah.
Part of me thinks. Well, I think that I think this the filmmaker. I think this was directed by Garrett Price, who he's done a few docs and done some work in TV, but nothing that's really become like a conversation piece like this.
Mm-hmm.
I think the movie had ambitions. I think it wanted to be topical and like tie it into more recent events and this weird chapter of American history.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I mean, what I took away from it was it was kind of like a point and laugh situation where it was like, look at these freaking people.
Yeah.
Kind of like just like, look how crazy this was. And that's always unfortunate when a movie that shallow becomes kind of, you know, makes some waves like this one did. That's kind of what I'm taking away from the insanity depicted in that footage is certainly what is the lasting feel of this movie for me.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, the takeaway and the message is just like this thing was a disaster and some shitty things happened.
Literally.
Yeah. The bathroom situation was pretty scary.
I like viscerally like reeled when I saw the jumping in puddles of.
That was the worst.
Shit. That was like my jaw hit the floor when I saw that.
It's just the funny thing about this to me, just I know I keep referencing it, but it's really my one and only like close experience to this is going to Grass Pop. Because I mean, you know, it's their community showers just like that. There's porta potties just like that. You know, it gets dirty. There were thousands of tents just like that. Like, it really hasn't changed a lot. Like, you know, I was using a urinal, you know, and directly behind me is like a bunch of girls ordering food. I mean, they can definitely, you know, they see me. There's no door blocking me.
Right.
It just kind of is what it is, you know?
Yeah,
I mean,
I guess why do you think that stuff that happened at that thing does not happen at stuff like Grass Pop, like the sexual assaults and the destruction? Is it just better like security? Is it different kinds of people? Is it just kind of a cultural shift? That's
a great question. You know, because it's kind of a similar age group, you know, that 24, 25-year-old. I mean, that's pretty much just going to a festival. I think at that time I was probably 26.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I mean, it's a bunch of dudes for the most part. So none of that's really changed. I think how it self-governs, I don't really know, but you know, maybe times have changed a little bit. I don't know though, because you know, you really don't see anybody getting into it with security. I mean, unless they're just hammered drunk, which, you know, to the point of the movie. A beer was the same price, if not less, than water.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's a problem in itself. You know, you're encouraging people not to hydrate themselves, but to get absolutely lit.
Yeah.
You know, and you're making it hard to access food. So again, you know, they're going to get drunker.
Yeah.
I think it was mainly in that kind of stuff. Just, you know, because at Grass Pop, I mean, it's really cool. They kind of like ACL, you know, there's a bunch of local food vendors. There's like 40 different food places to choose from, anything you could think of. And I mean, they're not gouging. The beers, you know, reasonably priced, free water. I mean, the simple stuff like that, I think, is what makes all the difference.
Sure.
Just give people food and water, man. In a place to go to the bathroom that's not just backflowed with shit.
Yes.
Right.
And one last thing, the showers at Grass Pop, they are like, imagine like a hollowed out porta potty. So it's like a plastic barriered thing. So like there's no way to like slide the curtain back and see somebody on the other side. Like that's not possible. Like you're confined to a solid area. So it's just really small nuances that I think make all the differences.
Yeah.
Sorry, Serge is agreeing.
No, it's all good. I'm trying to think. Was there anything funny that happened in this movie? Just to kind of lighten the mood a little bit? Or I'm sorry, are you done? Are we kind of done with our serious talk of it?
We can go back and forth. We can
It's
talk
true.
But there are absolutely funny stuff that happened in this.
Dude, Mega Dave?
Yes.
Dude, Dave. I love this kind of grandpa persona he has now.
With that auburn hair. Oh my god.
I love the part where it's just like, should I say it? Should I say it? Dave, should I say it?
We've got to
he's just
explain this.
cheesing. Yeah.
This. They talk about the anti-establishment mood of the crowd, and one of the things they mention is how this is when Napster was still going crazy. Sean Parker had not been sued into oblivion yet, so a lot of music was being shared online. And one of the biggest opponents to this, who sued Sean Parker, I think he was one of the first major artists to, was Lars Ulrich, the drummer for Metallica.
Yep, famously.
Yes, went on like Charlie Rose and got into it with Chuck D about it. I mean, the whole thing, and that made Lars, and maybe a little bit, well, I don't even know. It might have been all directed at Lars, all the anger of the fans. But yeah, they talk about how people hated him and hated anyone to stop file sharing from happening, and then they bring in Dave Mustaine, who is front man, founder of Megadeth, composer at Woodstock '99, and infamous. I mean, I call it a beef, but does Lars hate Dave?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so it is a two-way thing. Okay, so they
hate each other.
Yeah, and I'll let our show's Megadeth expert take it from here. What else happened?
Well, so Dave was originally in Metallica.
Yeah.
And so there's plenty of bad blood there, regardless of what they say. But yeah, him and Lars just, I'm sure you've seen the interviews of Dave, like in the '90s, just talking mad shit about Lars. Any chance he gets to just dump on him, he will definitely take.
Yeah.
But like you said, Lars was a huge opposer of Napster, and they gave the perfect person the stage to talk about it in this documentary.
And he almost didn't. He almost didn't swing, but he just couldn't help it in his angry little heart.
How could he not take the opportunity?
Did he even talk about the show at all? Or was it just kind of, they like, hey, do you want to talk about Lars? And he's like, yeah.
That's my theory. That he only agreed to talk about this show if they would let him shit on Lars.
Yeah. Maybe so, because
that's just amazing.
It was a very kind of random Napster segment. Like,
yeah,
I mean, it was happening at that time, but I
think they were trying to explain like the blind rage of the crowd, and they were pretty much taking any possible reason music related to explain it. But I'm with you. I don't think that tracks, honestly.
yeah.
Oh God. Have y'all seen the meme of Dave from the movie?
No.
It's him and his subtitle line of, "Does he have enough money?" I mean, is that?
Yeah. Does he need more?
That's being pasted above stories of like Jeff Bezos and offensive people. And I hope it catches on because that knocked me.
Yeah, I loved it. That was awesome.
Too.
And of course, speaking of memes, that Limp Bizkit has been all over the place.
Yeah, Lollapalooza.
Yes.
Yeah. So Travis, what happened? They played Lollapalooza and
they killed it, dude.
Yeah,
killed it.
And he has kind of a new persona.
Yeah, he's rocking the dad look.
Yeah.
It's awesome, man.
He looks like an extra from the Sabotage music video.
Right. I know. Everybody's like, what a Beastie Boys ripoff, man.
I did think it was kind of funny. Wasn't it him who looked out in the crowd when they were doing like the surfing? He's like, that's tight. He's like surfing on plywood.
Yeah. Yes, that's him. No, I love it. It's like, I feel like Limp Bizkit's kind of tapped into like, okay, we're a meme band now. Dude,
yeah,
we're gonna ride this thing all the way, and it's like, it's great. I feel like MTV always painted Durst out to be like this super serious character, and it's like that's why everybody kind of made fun of him. But he's always kind of been, dude. He's a smart guy. I mean, name another rock metal person who's been that much in the media, like in the late 90s there, early 2000s. Him and Britney Spears, man, like it's just weird to think that anybody in that genre ever became a household name.
Yeah, I didn't really realize how big Limp Bizkit was,
dude,
until I guess I saw this movie.
Massive.
Yeah. And I think, I've heard that Durst is actually like a pretty good guy.
Yeah.
I think despite, what you might think, like I read a quote from like Tom Morello talking about Woodstock 99. He was kind of like, people need to stop, blaming the kids. And, yes, there were terrible things that happened, but, the media is also ignoring a lot of like violence all over the world and this kind of thing. But he was like, and Fred Durst, didn't do anything bad or something like that. He's like, and he's a good guy.
Right. I just watched it's like a Aaron Lewis from Stained performance, and this guy in the crowd's like, fuck Fred Durst or something like that. And Aaron Lewis literally stops playing and for like 15 minutes talks about Fred Durst. And he's like, if it wasn't for Fred Durst, I wouldn't be here. Like, blah, blah, blah. You guys have no idea who Fred Durst is. He's an awesome guy. Like, his house just went up in flames. And, like, nobody knows that. And, like, during the California fires, apparently, like, his house burned to the ground. Like, he couldn't even get to his car. And he, like, rode off on his motorcycle and lost everything.
Oh, my God.
And, like, nobody knew about it. Like, he didn't post anything about it or, And he was like, you guys have no clue who Fred Durst is. I was like, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Durst is a decent guy. Okay. Interesting. What's his line? Now this red cap gets a bad rap from these critics.
Is that, oh, man. And then the other guy, Kid Rock.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
And he had an interesting line about Bill Clinton.
I was going to say, dude.
And Lewinsky.
Oh, my gosh.
That didn't didn't reflect well on Kid.
He'd take that to the grave. I guarantee you that guy has no shame in that comment.
He looks at that clip and is like,
proud moment right there.
How awesome was I? How fucking good looking did I look back then?
Right.
That fur coat.
Oh,
I was also thinking, like, they tried to be like, yes, this was the perfect symbol for, like, you know, the haves and the have-nots. I'm like, that's just Kid Rock.
Yeah.
Like,
yep.
Like being ridiculous.
Yeah, being Kid Rock. Like, that's his thing.
Like, that was his persona, yeah.
I felt like there were a few times where they tried to, like, weave in this, you know, deeper message or, you know, and it's like, I think a lot of it is just, like, kids doing bad things, like destroying stuff. And they're like, you know, see, they were burning Mercedes and ATMs, and it was like, this is how we feel about your greed. And I was like, I don't know if there was really that much thought put into that.
I think they were just hungry and sick and filthy.
A bunch of drunk, hungry, angry kids.
Yeah.
That are probably, I don't know, haven't slept in days.
Yeah.
Some on drugs, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no security anywhere.
Yeah, it's a lawless place. Anything goes.
Yeah.
I'm glad I watched it, though. I'll say that. It was a one and done for me. Kind of fun to sit down and watch, but I follow a lot of bands on some social media platforms, and it's like it's a bunch of bands from this time period, and a lot of the fans are like, oh man, you know, I went to Woodstock 99 and it was hot, but one of the best shows I've ever been to. I had a great time. And it's like, okay, interesting, you know, contrasting the documentary.
Michael Lang would be very happy to hear.
Yeah, that's why I said, you know, I obviously him and, you know, talking about, oh yeah, everything was great. Yeah. And then MTV, like, you just wouldn't believe the anarchy. It's like, I think there was a solid in between those two accounts.
Yeah. I mean,
you know,
definitely some horrifying things happen, but I'm sure there are plenty of people who went and are just like, yeah, it was fun. And like, have no idea, you know, what happened in this corner of the venue or
that stage is a mile away from the other stage. Like you had 3 little fire pits on a how many acre, you know,
150, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Huge property.
I'm not downplaying anything by any means. I'm just saying
no.
It was quite sensationalized.
Here's the Tom Morello quote, by the way, and I was confusing his quote with a Les Claypool quote, but here's Tom Morello's. He says, "Hey man, leave the kids alone. I've had enough of the frenzied demonization of young people surrounding Woodstock 99. Yes, Woodstock was filled with predators, the degenerate idiots who assaulted those women, the greedy promoters who wrung every cent out of thirsty concert goers, and last but not least, the predator media that turned a blind eye to real violence and scapegoated the 250,000 music fans at Woodstock 99, the vast majority of whom had the time of their lives."
Bam. On the head.
Yeah.
That sums it up right there.
Yeah, it does.
That's
And you know, the bonfires notwithstanding, I mean, most of the horror show that we saw at that air base, you'll see similar things like that at music festivals everywhere, and not just ones with like angry thrash new metal bands. Like country music festivals have all kinds of like drunken misconduct and crazy shit that happens. Like EDM shows have like shockingly high death rates. Like this is kind of a part of the culture, music festivals. And boy, I sure wish someone would make a documentary of that.
Well, so this music box thing, this is going to be a series, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
So do you think there's going to be like a Coachella or a...
No. I at the end of this thing, they play some promos of the upcoming episodes, and I don't think they're all going to be. I think a few of them are going to be about like particular individual artists and individual performances and people in the industry. Maybe it's not going to be like they're going to take shows and talk about them. Although that does sound really interesting. I'd watch that series for sure.
Yeah.
I'm looking at just some of the figures. So like burritos were $10. Dude, just check this out. Inflation and $10. So at $10, let me see. $10 in 1999. How much do you think that is today?
20.
Yeah.
$16.30 for a burrito.
Okay.
I could understand the frustration.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they didn't let people bring in food.
They let them bring in drugs, though.
Oh, yeah.
But hey, you go to a concert now. I just went and saw Seven Dust a couple weeks ago, and they charged me $12 for a 24-ounce Coors Light.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
dude, that's gouging to no end.
Yes. Oh God, the Green Day Weezer thing I went to, hella mega tour, Ranger Stadium. It was like $15 for a beer.
Yeah, there you go.
It was out of control.
Right.
I'm looking at some of the episodes of Music Box that are coming out soon, and one is just about Alanis Morissette.
Ooh.
Called Jagged, and one's about DMX. One's about Kenny G.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
And that's interesting. You got 2 Woodstock 99 artists right out of the gate.
Yeah. Actually, who's the guy in the helicopter? I thought that was Kenny G. Do you know who I'm talking about in this movie?
In the Woodstock 99 thing?
Yeah, I swear they showed like a guy who kind of has that curly hair thing. I don't know.
I thought that was the original doc that showed that guy.
Oh, maybe so.
And that, I think so. It's like Arlo Guthrie, I think it is, who got out of the helicopter and he had all like frizzy hair.
That makes sense.
The only helicopters from this one are police choppers that show up at the end.
Yep. Well, we'll probably do some more movies somewhere down the road, right?
Oh yeah, this was a blast. Just as a closing thing though, if they do Woodstock 60-year anniversary in 2020.
I think you cut out.
Are you there? I think I lost you.
Oh yeah,
I lost. So
if they do a 60-year what?
If they do the 60-year anniversary in 2029, would y'all want to go?
No, thanks.
It depends.
Yeah, I'd
have to see.
I don't. I'd probably pass on it too, honestly. All the music festivals, they're out there. I don't want to give Michael Lang any.
Yeah,
that guy is like living on a different planet, and he probably shouldn't be in charge of anything.
Yeah. Yeah, it would have to be just an amazing lineup because I don't even like, going to festivals, if I can avoid it.
Yeah.
Much prefer just kind of a regular old show. Yeah. I mean, I get it if you're into the experience. Like, I bet it is kind of fun. Camp out, and meet people. Like, where's Grass Pop, Travis?
It's in Dessel, Belgium, like northern Belgium.
Yeah. That was an experience.
If there are a lot of bands there that you like, I would say it's worth it.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. And like, it is the experience, meeting people and like just bonding with strangers. It's cool, man. We hung out with a dude from Ireland and a guy from Iran the whole time.
Yeah.
It's like a melting pot of cultures.
That is cool.
Yeah.
It is.
I don't know if, like a Woodstock's going to be that way, but yeah.
Time will tell.
Would you guys recommend this movie?
Yes. Yes, I would.
Um,
I think the shock value,
it's
kind of engaging.
It's yeah, I mean, it wasn't bad. Like, it was interesting enough. I wasn't just like, dying to hear more about it. But especially if you're kind of interested in this era, check it out.
Yeah, I think I'd recommend it. I mean, I just like watching anything related to Woodstock '99 personally.
Yeah.
So I won't watch it again, but I would recommend seeing it once.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Feel the same. All right. If you're still with us, thank you for joining us. Very different ones. We're going to be getting back to albums. We'll probably do something like this again. Keep up to date. Like, subscribe, share the video, talk about it. It's really cool. We're 3 different ones. See ya.